Thank you for joining us. We are here in Portland, Oregon, known as the City of Roses, and its scenic beauty, music and culture, from gardens to museums, and its ecologically friendly urban planning policies make it a beautiful and really inspiring city. The story of Portland, Oregon began for Europeans in the year 1805, when Lewis and Clark finally reached the Pacific Ocean just to the west of this location after 1 year of exploration. And today, Portland is a blend of historic and modern architecture with parks, trees and roses at every turn that give the city a stunning seasonal color. Its diverse population is a collage of cultures, including a vibrant Jewish community that began in the early 1900s with Jewish immigration from Eastern Europe. Today, Portland is an important tourist destination, and our guest today is Barbara Steinfeld, the Vice President of Travel Portland, who will tell us more about this magnificent city following these messages.
Healthcare costs are bankrupting America. The cause is federal overregulation. Unless a free market is restored, no one, including government, business, or individuals, will be able to afford the high cost of healthcare. My new book, Pharmocracy, exposes the corruption that causes needless suffering and death while our nation sinks into financial ruin. The solutions in this book can save Medicare and improve the lives of aging Americans. Pharmocracy provides an irrefutable basis to stop the suffocating impact of healthcare regulation. The benefit will be better medical technology at far lower prices. Fight back against corruption. Pharmocracy shows how we can tear down bureaucratic barriers that push healthcare costs beyond the reach of the American people. We can do it.
This essential book is only $24, and you'll also receive a free subscription to Life Extension magazine. Get your book today.
Tell me everything that's happening.
The horse is old Jenkinson. That's Bacon. He never puts sunscreen on.
Never?
'Cause it's Bacon. That is a girl that is friends with the flamingo.
And what's this?
That's you, Mommy.
When a child can create on a canvas as big as their imagination, that's the way it should be. The HP TouchSmart 520T, only from HP, the world's #1 PC maker.
With us now is Barbara Steinfeld. Barbara, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Richard.
Your city is absolutely exquisite, and I really have rarely seen a city that I've liked as much as this one. How do you see what is unique about Portland?
Well, Portland really is a very creative city, and it attracts a lot of creative people to Portland. I think we're an unpretentious destination. Portland is a creative hub, and it draws a lot of creative people to Portland. I think people come here because of the natural beauty. Portland is a unique combination of an urban destination surrounded by unbelievable natural beauty. And that together draws in a lot of creative types to the city, which in turn creates the energy, I think, that you sense in town that is really different from anywhere else.
Well, not only am I very impressed with the beauty of your city and the transportation system and the architecture and so forth, but your restaurants. Tell us a little bit about the culinary aspect of your city.
The food scene in Portland is really an amazing thing, especially for a city of our size. I think our culinary tourism and the number of award-winning chefs that we have is way out of proportion for the size of the city and the area that we have. The farm to fork movement is one of the things that really got started here in the Pacific Northwest because of the plethora of special fruits and vegetables. For example, we have our own berry called the Marionberry that is a hybrid raspberry and blackberry that is really just from this area. We've got cherries and apples and pears and every kind of berry, not to mention all the greens and the seafood. We're famous for our salmon. We're famous for Dungeness crab. So the kinds of foods and the amount of it that we have has drawn chefs to the Portland area, specifically for the bounty of Oregon. Travel Oregon has a program called Oregon Bounty, which focuses completely on the culinary tourism and the food scene. We have the third largest number of wineries in the United States, following California and Washington. And our wines are more craft wines because the production isn't huge. We have 350, 360 wineries, but the amount of wine that's produced is not that large, and that makes it more of a crafted product. And that craft industry goes into our beer as well. We have the largest number of microbreweries of any city in the entire world here in Portland. So we have craft beer, we have craft wine, real wine, but to me, in my mind, it's crafted because you can't find it everywhere. And also now the new distillery movement. So we have crafted gins and rums that come out of this area, not to mention coffee and tea, which is very popular altogether in the Pacific Northwest. So the number of restaurants and great chefs that we have, award-winning chefs, James Beard winners, Gourmet magazine focuses on us, Food and Wine magazine, the New York Times, they love us and they really talk about our food a lot. And that farm to fork movement that typifies how fresh the food is what I think makes our restaurants so great. One of my favorite things is when you walk into a restaurant, instead of having a printed menu, it's whatever's written up for that day or that week or on a chalkboard, because it's always what's fresh and not something that you can get 12 months out of the year in our restaurants. The other thing that is really cool about Portland's food scene that everybody needs to try if they come here is our food carts. We have more than 500 food carts that are registered here in Portland, and they're set up in pods around the city. You can have the lunch pod with 40 or 50 food carts up at 10th and Alder or down on 3rd and Washington. Or if you're out late at night and you need something to soak up that alcohol at 2 in the morning, we have special food carts that are in pods in another part of the city to go to for that. So whether it's dinner or lunch or late night, you know where to go to one of those food cart pods. And some of our best chefs actually have gotten started at the food carts. They didn't have enough to get a restaurant started, so they opened up a food cart and they decided to give it a try that way, and then they went on to open up their restaurant. We also have the case of the sous chef working with a really good chef who wants to make it on his or her own and decides to open up a food cart for gourmet pasta or whatever they might decide to do in order to give it a try on their own. So that food cart scene here in Portland is just an amazing one and something everybody should try when they're in town.
I can certainly attest to how unique your restaurants and food selections are in this town. I'd like to change subject for a second, Barbara, and ask you about the cultural scene. I understand that there's a diverse cultural scene in town. We attended a concert just yesterday with Joshua Bell. Tell us about the cultural scene.
I started in Portland 15 years ago as the 4th cultural tourism director to be hired by a Convention and Visitors Bureau in the country. And I think that attests to the progressive nature of the culture in Portland. Portland is full of music and dance and theater. Again, way beyond the size of what the city itself is. We have hundreds of different theaters in town, from small to large, and theater festivals. Our symphony is the oldest symphony west of the Mississippi, and all of the members of the symphony are 100% salaried employees of that symphony. We have a lot of music groups that are professional and also contemporary music that is the scene here in Portland. We have a live jazz scene. We have the Portland Jazz Festival that takes place every February. Starting in 2 days, what is today, July 1st, we have the Blues Festival. We have the second largest blues festival in the country after Chicago, and it's a free event that really is open to help the Oregon Food Bank. We have 3 stages and about 100 acts of blues that will be in town on the waterfront starting in 3 days. In addition to the music and the, I want to talk about the visual arts too, because I think the craft movement and the galleries and the visual arts in Portland are huge. We have the Pacific Northwest College of Art. We have a gallery scene that we call First Thursday. So every first Thursday of every month, the galleries stay open late and show off their new exhibitions, so people can go out and have a little wine, a little music, see the new art all throughout the parts of town, and that takes place in the downtown area. But we have another part of town that is open on the last Friday of every month with the same idea. So all through town you can get the visual arts, the performing arts. There are a lot of musical groups that are very special here. We have Chamber Music Northwest, for example, that brings in chamber music quintets and quartets from all over the country and the world to play for 3 weeks during the summer. We have Portland Baroque Orchestra, which is another unique orchestra that plays specifically Baroque music. We have the opera, the symphony, the ballet. Those are the classic ones that everybody knows and thinks about. But in addition to that, I would say the hundreds of other theaters and other performing groups really bring the culture to life here in Portland. I sing in Oregon Repertory Singers, and I'd love to put in a plug for that group. Oregon Rep is one of the best choirs in town, and we perform along with Portland Symphonic Choir and tons of other choirs. We also have Artist Repertory Theater. Artist Repertory Theater is one of the most riveting theater groups in town. When you go there, really hang on to your seat, because you never know what's going to hit you from that particular thing. So I would say that when it comes to the cultural scene in Portland, between the music, the theater, the dance, the opera, and the visual arts, we have it.
Please tell our audience a little bit more about the tourist attractions that are unique.
The top attractions in Portland include the Oregon Zoo, and the Oregon Zoo is more than a zoo, because in addition to featuring the flora and fauna of the Pacific Northwest, it also has a concert series every summer. So there's music playing at our zoo, and people go there not only for the animals but also for the music. Where the zoo is, in Washington Park, there are many attractions together. We have the Japanese Garden, the Forest Discovery Center, the Children's Museum, and the zoo, together with the Vietnam Memorial and the Holocaust Memorial and Hoyt Arboretum. It's all about 5 minutes from downtown in a very green, beautiful area. The Max Light Rail system goes to that part of town, and when you get out at the zoo, you're in the deepest underground station in North America of a light rail system. So it's a lot of fun to take the train up to the zoo, get out, take the elevator up, and then visit all of those attractions. We have the classical Chinese garden, which is called Lan Su. It's right in the downtown district, and it's a typical scholars garden from Suzhou, China, which is our sister city, and 60 artisans came from China to build that garden here in Portland about 12 years ago as a gift to us, with their own tools and everything shipped over from China. So it is very authentic and beautiful in Portland, in the downtown area. Portland is really a city of neighborhoods. It's a city of bridges. It's the city of roses for the Rose Festival and the Rose Garden, but it's also a city of neighborhoods. And I think because it's a big city that has a small city feel, it is due to that neighborhood feeling. You go from one little neighborhood to the other. Each one has its own character, its own set of restaurants, its own set of shops, and its own feel. So downtown is one of those neighborhoods where some of the attractions are. We also have the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, which we call OMSI, which is a lot of fun for kids. They've got an authentic submarine there, and they also have a planetarium and an IMAX theater. So these are some of the fun attractions in Portland. But one of the biggest draws to the city that everybody talks about when they come here is Powell's Bookstore. Powell's is the largest independently owned bookstore in North America. And there are over 1 million volumes there. And you can access it in the store. When you walk in the store, they give you a color-coded map so you can find your way around the store. It's open till 11 o'clock, 364 days a year. So it's a real hub for Portlanders. And I think the fact that we can support an independently owned bookstore to that size says a lot about who Portlanders are, because reading and the number of independently owned bookstores that we have in this town is more per capita than any other city in the country. So those are some of the attractions that you can visit. Saturday Market is on today, Sunday, and also on Saturday, and it's the longest running crafts market. The people that are there have to make what it is that they sell. And you can go there 9 months out of the year, all the way through Christmas, and then it opens up again in the spring. And it's been around, I forget, maybe about 30 years now, I think, for the craft market in Portland.
I just visited the craft market earlier today. Really beautiful. In fact, the whole city is wonderful. I rode a bicycle down the river a little before meeting you today. But anyway, let's change topics yet again. You mentioned the Holocaust Museum. Tell us a little bit about the different ethnicities in the city.
There's a long history in Portland with the Asian communities. The Chinese have been here for 5 generations in Portland. They originally came into Portland to help build the railroad and to do lumber. This is one of the nicknames that we really hate about the city is Stumptown, because when they first founded the city in the early 1800s, it was all forest, and they needed to cut down the trees in order to put in a town, and so we got that name. We in the Tourism Bureau don't like to use Stumptown, but one of our best coffee makers in Portland is called Stumptown Coffee. So the Chinese came here in the 1800s. The Japanese followed, and we have 5 generations of Japanese that have been here in the Portland area. African Americans came into Portland also in the 1800s for work, but mainly after World War II was when the big surge of African American population came into Portland. Jewish population moved into Portland as early as 1835, and one of our oldest synagogues has a history dating back to the mid-1800s here in Portland.
This is really most interesting. And of course, there's a large Hispanic community in this city also. Tell us a little bit about how people get along and how is education, and more about the cultural diversity of the city of Portland.
Well, regarding education, because of the way that funding has been going in the past decade, it could be better, I would say, because there aren't enough funds from the government to put into education as it needs to be. One of the latest movements that we had, in fact, it just was passed 3 days ago by City Council, is an initiative to get arts back into our schools here in Portland. And that will be across the board to all the schools to try to at least get one art teacher into every school, because we're lagging in that in Portland, and it really is important to the community, and especially the arts community, to get arts education back in the schools. So we just passed it will go to the ballot next. We got permission to take it to the ballot. As far as everybody getting along, Portland is a pretty unpretentious, laid-back community, and I think you'll find it's very friendly, pretty integrated. We don't have too many separate neighborhoods for different distinct groups. There are areas of town where maybe outside of Portland in another suburb where more Hispanics live, and that is our largest immigrant population today in the Portland area. And there is a certain part of town where maybe you would have an area where more African Americans live. But for the most part, people do mix. They mix in the high schools and they mix in our school system.
Barbara, this is all very, very interesting, but we have to pause for a moment for these commercial messages. We'll be right back. We're back with Barbara Steinfeld. Barbara, this is such a wonderful city, and I understand that it's also located in a rather unique part of the United States, in between mountains and other landmark cities. Tell us about this.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that people really love to come to Portland, whether it's for meetings or vacations, is because of our location. We are 90 minutes to the beautiful Pacific coast, and we are 90 minutes to Mount Hood, where Timberline Lodge is located. So really you can ski and then drive down to Portland, maybe shop, because it is tax-free here. We have no sales tax in the entire state of Oregon, and continue on and be on the coast and put on a wetsuit and get into the waves. The Columbia River Gorge, now the Columbia River is what divides Washington from Oregon. It is one of the most beautiful areas in the United States. And when you drive down that Columbia River Gorge, there are a series of waterfalls, and in 45 minutes out of town, you're at Multnomah Waterfalls, and you can hike the falls along the way. So in a really quick amount of time, you can be outside the city into old forest, 2 waterfalls, hiking, biking, doing all of that right around the city of Portland.
A subject matter of particular concern and interest to me is that of the environment, and your city is known as being very ecologically friendly. Please elaborate.
We really are known as one of the greenest cities in the United States. We're one of the most bike-friendly. We have some of the best public transportation. People come to Portland to study urban development because of what we've done with our waterfront and reclaiming it. We also have more acres of park and wilderness area within the city limits of any city in the United States. We have Forest Park, which is 5,000 acres of contiguous wilderness area within the city limits of Portland. So if you really need a touch of green, you need to breathe some fresh air, you want to go hike in an old growth forest, you can leave downtown and in 5 or 10 minutes you are in the middle of that forest. We have our Audubon Society and all of the different parks that are around. So most cities are known like, I'm a city and I have a park. Portland is really known as, I'm a park and I have a city in it, and that really is Portland.
Barbara, this has been a real great pleasure. I love your city. In fact, I'm tempted to move here. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, and come to Portland.
I'll certainly consider that. I'll be right back. This concludes our special show for today from On Location in Portland, Oregon. I'm Richard Peritz. Thank you for being with us.